Hey everybody, I'm here to talk about the astrology for June 2025. Hey everyone, I'm Lou, also known as the Rocker Witch, and welcome to my channel if you're new. If you're not, welcome back. I have the monthly headlines for the month of June 2025, the astrology headlines. I know some of you love this, so I keep putting it out. If you like these and you want more detailed astrology for like week by week, I do have on my Patreon, at the lowest tier level, I do have videos every week where I talk about in detail the astrology for the week if you like this stuff. I also have on my website for free a newsletter with all of these monthly headlines if you want sort of a written reference that you can look at as for what are the headlines of the month. And of course I do astrology readings too on my Etsy shop if you want to check that out. But you're here for the June headlines. June, is a pretty active month. We do have Jupiter changing signs this month. That's probably the big headline for June. Jupiter changes signs every 13 months. So once a year, he's going to change signs, and he might do a little retrograde back into the previous one. So it's not really unusual to have Jupiter change his sign, obviously, but it does happen about once a year. This year, if you've been following along, has been one where the outer planets, like all of the outer planets, are shifting signs. Like we had Pluto go into Aquarius at the beginning of the year for good for 20 years. Neptune the end of March, beginning of April, went into the sign of Aries. So that's a huge one. He's going to retrograde back in the fall, but then in 2026, he's going to be there for 14 years. So that's huge. We have Uranus in July. Stay tuned for that one, going into the sign of Gemini, and he changes signs every 8 years. So we have those planets all changing signs this year. We had Saturn change signs last month into the sign of Aries, and now we have Jupiter. So all of these slow moving outer planets all changing signs, really showing enemy that things are shifting and changing in the energy around the world, because the outer planets tend to be more about what's going on in the world, about generations, about overarching archetypes and themes, and we can definitely see that is going on in the world. You don't have to be an astrologer to see all of that. But let's get into the headlines for this month in June. So I'll go over them in order. The first one is that on Friday, June 6th, we have Venus going into Taurus. So Venus changes signs about every 4 weeks or so. And she's going into the sign of Taurus, which is one of her home signs. So Venus rules both Taurus and Libra. So Venus is very happy in Taurus. She's going to be there, I think, for the rest of the month. Yeah, right at the beginning of July, she changes signs again. But Friday, June the 6th, she goes into Taurus. She loves being in Taurus. Taurus is an earthy sign. It's a fixed sign. It's all about slowing down, enjoying the physical realm. It's all about, just enjoying sensuality. So it's not just about sex, although it, can be obviously, but it's also just enjoying physical pleasures, enjoying, good food, enjoying smelling a flower, enjoying, like comfortable, luxurious clothes and smelling good and getting your hair done or taking a bubble bath. Like it's really about that sensual kind of enjoyment. It also tells us to go outside and enjoy nature, because Taurus is a very earthy nature-based sign, and Venus is like enjoy the beauty of nature, because Venus is beauty, love, and art. And when she goes into Libra, she's more about the beauty that people create, so things like art and architecture. When she's in Taurus, she's about the beauty of nature. So it's go outside, enjoy nature, smell the flowers, like cuddle a kitty, like all of those kind of things. So it's asking us this month to slow down and enjoy things. And also in our relationships too, to slow down. You don't have to like rush into things. It's just like enjoy each other's presence, be with each other, slow down and enjoy life, Venus is telling us. Then on Sunday, June 8th, we have Mercury changing into the sign of Cancer. So Mercury spends about 3 weeks in a sign. He moves very quickly. And we do have 3 times a year retrograde period. So he moves quickly, but he also has those retrograde periods. Next month in July is when he starts another retrograde, but there's no Mercury retrograde this month. Mercury in Cancer, this is about expressing our emotions, because Mercury is about communication and about travel. It's also kind of the way we think about things and the way we learn. So Mercury in Cancer, Cancer is a water sign, Cancer is an emotional sign. Mercury in Cancer tends to be us talking about our feelings, communicating with our feelings, but we can also be a little oversensitive when Mercury's in Cancer. Like we might read too much into something that someone says. The other thing too is Mercury in Cancer can make us a little more anxious because Cancer tends to be a sign where one of its challenges is worry and anxiety. And Mercury can be kind of, like it's the way we think about things. So it can make us, if we're prone to a little more anxiety, this can come up. I think it's telling us, pay attention to your emotions and be kind to yourself, especially if you are prone to these things. Mercury in Cancer is a great time for creative writing because Mercury's communication and Cancer is a very creative sign. We think of Cancer as very nurturing and very motherly, and it is, but it's also a sign connected with the subconscious and with our imagination and dreams. So this could be a great time to do some creative work, and that, creative writing, but maybe some poetry or art. This is more about art that we make that's kind of solitary and not so much about showing it off, but making art that's more for us and more solitary. We may choose when Mercury goes into Leo to show it to others, but right now it's about communicating what's in our soul and what's in with us. This is also a good time to talk to people about the past, about history, about issues around motherhood, all of those kind of Cancer type energies. When it comes to travel, Mercury in Cancer is good for going back to places we've been before as opposed to new ones because Cancer is associated with memories. Also, anything where we're traveling to somewhere we may have an ancestral or cultural heritage history, so some connection to in some way. The big headline is Monday, June 9th, we have Jupiter moving into Cancer. So as I said, Jupiter changes signs about every 13 months. So it spends about a year in a sign. Jupiter is about luck. It's about expanding ourselves. It's where we feel optimistic. It's where things come easy to us. So look, if you know your chart, look at your your Cancer house. Look at where Cancer is in your chart. That'll show you where the next 13 months or so things are going to come to you fairly easily, where there's going to be some opportunities maybe coming into your life, so watch for that. Jupiter in Cancer, Jupiter expands things, and so we may be over the next year feeling more sensitive about things, and that can be both good and bad, right? Because we might be more sensitive to other people, more empathetic, which is good. I mean, right now in the world, there's some people who are like, empathy is bad, which is like, what the hell, right? But it's connecting in with that empathy, that sympathy for others, connecting in with our intuition, especially our intuition may expand about things. But also just be aware with that sensitivity that we're going to pick up on things from others. And sometimes people and the things that are going on in the world aren't so nice. And so it's asking us to remember to protect ourselves. If you think of a crab, it's got its shell, right? And not to be so closed off. It's always a balance, but to also protect ourselves and to protect our energy. Jupiter in Cancer is very protective. Cancer is a nurturing sign. Cancer is associated with motherhood and mothering. And so we want to nurture things. We want to protect the vulnerable. We want to protect, children and animals and people who are vulnerable. And that is a wonderful thing. So it's asking us to expand and to think about others and think about how we can nurture the world. Cancer is a very, like I said, imaginative sign too. So this is a great time to expand your creative output. It's a great time to connect in with your subconscious and your dreams, perhaps for insights into creativity and artwork. Good time too to do psychic development and spiritual development as well. So a lot of good things in this area. Also, I feel like collectively, there's probably going to be this idealization, and we already sort of see this around motherhood and mothering and nurturing. And again, nothing wrong with any of those things, but sometimes we over idealize things, or we don't see the struggles. We only see kind of this idealistic version of things. There may also be an expansion around things that are kind of the domestic arts as well. Things like baking and cooking and sewing and knitting and things like that. There you may see more of that over the next year, gardening, things like that. Things we tend to think of as domestic, right? Which with Cancer rules. Wednesday, June 11th, we have a full moon. Full moons, they happen every month. This is when the sun and moon are in opposite sign. The full moon is going to be at 20 degrees of Sagittarius. So we do have the sun in Gemini. Gemini's opposite Sagittarius. So we have the sun, which is our focus on things. We're focused on very Gemini type things like learning. We're focusing on our social life, talking to people, gathering ideas. And then the full moon comes along and says, hey, you need to find a balance between explain this. And Sagittarius is about the big picture. It's not about Gemini's the facts. Sagittarius is like the overall big picture of things. It is about, the big ideas. It's about philosophy, religion. And so it's saying, hey, you got to pay attention to the big overarching ideas as well. Sagittarius is also associated with travel, with foreign countries. And so it says we have to look at things from a more worldwide point of view rather than just looking at like the details of things. So it's asking us to look big picture at this time. This is a very nice full moon. It has a supportive trine with Mars in Leo and with Chiron in Aries. So this is an opportunity to do some deep healing about things. This is a great time to use the creative arts to heal. This is a great time to think big about things, to look at issues in a new way and to look at them creatively. It's also going to be opposite Jupiter as well. So, we may be there may be a temptation to blow things out of proportion or to make things a little bigger than what they are. So I would say that's the only kind of caveat I have for that full moon. Tuesday, June 17th, we have Mars moving into Virgo. Now, this one is interesting because Mars had a retrograde period from the beginning of December of last year all the way till the end of February. And so what happened was Mars was in Cancer, moved into Leo, retrograded back through Leo, back into Cancer, stopped, moved into Cancer and Leo. So we've had Mars in either Cancer or Leo for the last 6 months. So we are finally moving away from those energies. Mars is our energy, our drive, our will. It's also aggression as well, how we express our anger about things. And so in Leo, it tends to be very bombastic. It tends to be in your face, can even be bullying energy, but also can be like inspiring leadership type energy. And now it's moving into Virgo, which is definitely a tone shift. So Virgo's an earth sign, so this is not about bombasticness. I find Mars in Virgo can really get things done because Virgo is a sign that's earthy and organized. It's about making lists, it's checking things off. It's also about service. Virgo is very service driven, and so we can really accomplish things and get things done, especially if we're going about it in a very analytical and organized fashion. The downside with Mars and Virgo is it tends to be quite critical. So we might be more self-critical. We might be like beating ourselves up. We might be criticizing ourselves, being overly sort of puritanical to ourselves. But we can also do this to others, where we're criticizing others, we're nitpicking at little things instead of seeing the overall big picture. We're kind of like being overly critical and puritanical about things. So I think that can be one of the downfalls with Mars and Virgo. We can get a lot done. This is like, okay, you had these big ideas, now you got to get them to work. Now you've got to like put in the time. You've got to, how are you going to do this? What is your step by step? So the next couple of months are ones where really use that energy to get organized and to accomplish things. Then on Wednesday, June 18th, we have a big aspect going on. So I don't report on all of the aspects that are happening in the month. If you want that, again, that's like my weekly Patreon. But I do talk about the ones where the big planets are making aspects to planets because these aspects are slow moving. I'm going to tell you the day of the exact aspect, but keep in mind that about a week before and after or more, these are in play because they are very slow moving. And on Wednesday, June 18th, we have Jupiter, which is now in Cancer, making a square. And squares are stressful. It's like a 90-degree angle. It's a stressful aspect with Neptune, who's just moved into Aries. So Jupiter, again, expansion, luck, opportunity, and it is making a square with Neptune, and Neptune's about our ideals. It's what we idealize. It's what our dream is about things. This can be inspiring or it can be a delusion. And so Jupiter squaring Neptune asks us to be really aware at this time of what we're deluding ourselves about. So it's saying, what are we being presented with that's like a fantasy, that's actually not something that's realistic, that, maybe somebody's making too much of something because Jupiter expands things, right? And Neptune's that dream. And it's great to have ideals and goals to go for, but to ask ourselves like what's actually realistic. And because Neptune also has an aspect of deception to us, it's like we maybe be presented with a pipe dream, with something that, isn't actually as good as what's trying to be sold to us. So pay attention to that around that time. What feels too good to be true, because it probably is. And then on Friday, June 20th, we have the sun moving into the sign of Cancer. This happens around this time every year. This is summer solstice here in the northern hemisphere and winter solstice in the southern hemisphere. So we have the sun moving into Cancer. Sun's what we focus on. It's our ego. And I don't mean that necessarily in a negative way, but it's our sense of self, right? It's our sense of self, our sense of individuality, our consciousness. And we move away from that Gemini energy, which is, again, very social, very much about ideas and facts and gathering facts. And, it's a very quick moving energy. To Cancer, it's slowing down. We're being asked to slow down. Sun in Cancer focuses more on the home and family. It focuses more on our emotions. It's very internal. And also it has like a connection with memory and with nostalgia. So this is kind of like, this is the summer holiday type vibe where we just kind of want to slow down, maybe be at home or be at the lake if you're lucky, or at the beach, and just enjoy ourselves. This is not about rushing. This is about slowing down, checking in with our emotions, with our feelings, being with the people that are closest to us, the people that we love, reminiscing, all of those things. Great time for reunions as well, for sure. So Sun in Cancer, it's like slow down, connect in with your memories, your past, maybe your family, being at home, all of that. It's that slowing down energy. And of course, right on June 20th is summer solstice. And summer solstice, it's like the height of like the sun. We have the most daylight hours. And again, I know I'm talking for the northern hemisphere, but that is most of the viewers here. So it is kind of that heightened energy of the sun and the solar aspect of things. And we know that the sun's going to be waning, but hey, this is a great time to get out and to celebrate. On Wednesday, June 25th, we have a new moon. Again, every month has a new moon. And this is when the sun and the moon are in the same sign. And that's why it's great for making goals. Because first of all, the sun is the moon is at its lowest point, is going to be growing in the sky. So if we plant something now, it's going to continue to grow to full moon. And also the sun and moon are in the same sign. They're working together. Their energies are working together. The masculine and feminine, the conscious and the subconscious, the active and the passive, right? And so this new moon is at 4 degrees of Cancer. So new moons are a great time to set intentions. So if you have any goals around like home improvement, family, even creativity, or, researching the past, anything like that, this is a great time to set some goals in that area. This moon has like some good and some like challenging aspects. So it's got a square. Squares again are stressful, with Saturn that just moved into Aries and with Neptune that just moved into Aries. So we're going to have to, like, whatever goals we set, it's asking us, like, is this realistic? Can you actually do this? Are there blockages? Are there things, obstacles that are in the way? Does this fit in with things realistically? But it's also conjunct, meaning together, with Jupiter. And so there's a sense of hope, a sense of optimism, a sense of luck as well. And it's making a supportive sextile with Mars and Virgo. So it says, you know what, as long as you're looking at it realistically and you have a plan, you can get this done. It's not impossible. It just means you got to be realistic about it. So that's our new moon this month. And then our last big aspect for the month is on Thursday, June 26th. We have Mercury moving into the sign of Leo, because he changes signs every 3 months. He is going to have a retrograde period next month in the sign of Leo, but for now he's moving forward. Mercury in Leo is very expressive. Mercury in Leo tends to be very dramatic, sometimes overly dramatic, but tends to be dramatic, tends to be in your face. Mercury in Leo is very honest, very straightforward. What you see is what you get, but it does, like I said, tend to be somewhat dramatic. Now, this is great if you're an actor, a singer, anything like that, or you really need to impress someone. You need to stand up and talk about something. You need to convince someone of something. Mercury in Leo can definitely do that. Mercury in Leo, though, can be, like I said, all about the drama. So you may feel a little more dramatic, a little bit more extroverted as you get towards the end of June. So that's what I'm seeing for this month. So again, big headline is Jupiter changing signs like he does once a year, sort of changing where our luck and ease is coming to us. The sun changes sign every month. We have a new moon, a full moon. Mercury changes signs pretty frequently. Venus will do that at least, once a month. So things are shifting, but, they're not, this month isn't quite as dramatic, I would say, as some of the previous months, which is good, but there's still a lot going on this month. So let me know what your thoughts are if you have any questions. Again, if you like this stuff, I do have on my Patreon the weekly astro reports along with weekly tarot scopes. I do have my free newsletter you can sign up for on my website. You can check that out. And I do astrology readings as well, so you can check that out too. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for comments, for liking, subscribing. I appreciate all of it. And of course, my patrons, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. You help me to keep doing this. You have no idea. Just thank you so much. And as always, sending you guys so much love, especially right now. I know the world's a crazy place, but I'm sending you all so much love. So peace and love and rock and roll.